evening, Roscoe.
Good evening, Peter. How are you getting on this evening?
Oh, no bother. Have you got a little delay there? You answered me a wee bit behind it.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
The internet's not
Never
great
mind.
where I am, I'm afraid. So
Don't worry, folks. If Ross doesn't answer immediately, he's not ignoring us all. Don't worry. He's just a wee bit behind. That's all.
it's a bit slow.
Bit slow.
How's your week been, Peter?
Evening. Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad at all. Just rattling along. One more week and then it's the holidays. Would you believe? That's the Easter holidays coming up. So it's good. Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen out there. This is us Scottish Sessions live on Tartan Tunes channel. Loads of folk joining us already. Please share the show about, hit the share button and share us to wherever. That would be fantastic. We're live tonight on Facebook, Tartan Tunes and Tunes in the House. And we're on Twitter and we're on YouTube. So you can stick us in the big telly or whatever you want to do. This could be your Sunday night entertainment. We'll have two fantastic guests for you tonight. Really looking forward to this tonight. We've got Stuart Samson coming on, piper, and he's got a great story to tell you. An ex-army pipe major and director of the piping school, the army piping school. So I'm really looking forward to a chat with him. And we also have that famous fiddler from Ayrshire, Alistair McCulloch. And I'm really looking forward to chatting to Alistair as well, and he's see what he's up to these days. It's a while since I've seen him. So please share the show about and let everybody know what's going on. So have you had a good week, Ross?
Yeah, busy. Very good week of continuing with trying to pass these exams for the HND course. Still going strong. I'm just about finished my second batch of lessons from Kyle Howie on the whistle, which has been great fun. Actually, really good fun, and
Kyle's
just cracking on.
Web address if anybody wants it.
Yeah, Kyle's teaching pipers whistle lessons just now, and it's a great bunch of courses that he's put together, and great fun as well. So good, and just enjoying playing these new pipes that I hope that I can get to keep for another couple of weeks yet. The Kintail Glens, David Glens, who have actually just got their first batch of GR Glens in, which I can't wait to. I've been told I'm getting a set of these to try as well, so very excited, very excited.
You're going to have to get the wallet
I know. Well, actually, I tell you, the David Glen sets that I got, the first set there, I'm going to buy them. They're absolutely exactly what I want. Like, I can't stop playing them. I've never played anything like it. Absolutely love them. And there's more and more people trying them out just now, and we're all in a wee group chat, and nobody can fault them at all. They're just beautiful to play.
Great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Folks, keep sending in all the messages. It's lovely to see all your messages coming up, and let us know where you are, folks. It's always brilliant for us to know where you are. There we go. There's Viola in Boston, USA. Fantastic. We've got a huge crowd watching here tonight already. This is fantastic. Really nice to see so many people joining us tonight. But let us know where you are, because we love to know things like that. We love to know your favourite colour. We love to know everything, don't we, Ross?
Absolutely. And what tie you're wearing.
Anyway, I'm going to play a wee tune in the box tonight, and I thought we've got lots of fiddle and we've got lots of pipe music, so I'm not going to bother playing pipe tunes tonight. I thought I'll play a mere accordion-y thing. So I'm going to play a Will Starr tune, the famous Will Starr in his day. He was a button box player, but he wrote this famous tune called the Jacqueline Waltz. So I thought I'll maybe play that tonight. Give you a wee tune.
Lovely. Good stuff.
I'm going to play it in the wee new accordion.
I love this thing.
This new wee one. The Alexandrina.
It's a cracker, that. Squeezebuckshop.co.uk.
Yeah, Tom and Eleanor Cruikshank letting me play these bonny accordions for them, and it's great to get a wee shot to see what's new on the scene, and this is a wee beauty. So, here's the Jacqueline Waltz. What do you all, if you find yourself singing along, you've had too much to drink already, because there's no words. There we go. It's
Beautiful.
almost got a wee kind of Swiss continental sound to it. That,
Yeah.
hasn't it?
Yeah, I love that European sounding music. Is you can't help swinging away to it. It's great, and the box fits it perfect. Eh?
Yeah, it's good. It's a nice wee box. It's very light and easy to play, that one, so it's really good. So that's great. So keep sharing, folks. Keep sharing. We're getting huge numbers. That's fantastic. Great. That's Stuart Samson as a guest. Yes, an awesome pipe major, says Michael McMahon. Ah, good. I'm very looking forward to this tonight. Are you going to give us a wee set of tunes on the pipe tonight before we?
Yeah, as mentioned, I've got these Glen pipes made by Kintail. I absolutely love them, and so I'm going to play a set of tunes. And I wrote the first tune. I wrote the first tune last week for my girlfriend Gwen's dad. It was his birthday last week, so I wrote a tune called Waverley after his house. And then two of my favourite tunes. I didn't mean to play tunes after it, but I meant to play Highland Laddie, but I didn't mean to keep going into the Black Bear. But I just thought two cracking wee tunes to continue with. So a wee kind of 3/4 slow air called Waverley that I wrote myself, and Highland Laddie and the Black Bear.
And do we all have to hook at the right bit? And
Waverley, thank you very much, and maybe Highland Laddie at the end.
Good stuff. Excellent. Give yourself a little round of applause. Well, you know, it was quite interesting, the Glens, and they're sounding magic, they bouts. But this morning, when I done my wee set of tunes that I always do for lockdown 2, I think I'm at day 77 or something, I can't mind now.
Uh-huh.
But I actually took all the tunes out of Glenn's, old Glenn's books today.
Yeah.
And it was wee 6/8, what I call wee 6/8, 2-part 6/8, you know.
Uh-huh.
And it was really, you forget how good some of these really old tunes are, the Quaker's Wife and all these kind of tunes, really brilliant.
Yeah.
Tunes. And the last one I finished the set today with, I found it in the book, I think it was in Glenn's book 1 or book 2, and it was a tune called Leslie's March. Now, I played it for about 6 or 7 years with a band up here in Shetland, a big fiddle band, but they called it a Danish tune. They reckoned it'd come from Denmark, this Danish tune, and here I found it in Glenn's book this morning, so it just shows you how music is back and forward, isn't it?
We mentioned this in a couple of other episodes that we did with some of the Canadian guests about the Greenland and the whaling. You know, there is a connection through that shipping where these reels and dance tunes have been.
It's magic. Anyway, listen, we've got a guest waiting backstage for us here, and I think it's really nice to bring him on. So would you like to introduce our next guest? I think that would be lovely.
Yeah, why don't I? The next guest is the very, very famous Stuart Samson, pipe major, pipe extraordinaire.
Yes. Hello, Stuart.
Hi Peter, hi Ross.
Hello, how you getting on?
I'm good, yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks for the invite onto the show. It's really kind of you. As I say, I'm excited and also a little bit nervous, but you can be gentle with me.
We're gentle with everybody, don't worry. That's, where are you tonight, Stuart? Are you in Blairgowrie today?
Yeah, I stay in Blairgowrie, yeah. I've been here for about 3 years now since I was teaching in the National Piping Centre. Once I left the army, I was down there for 9 years. So after 9 years I thought it was time for a move, and myself and my wife decided to settle down in Blairgowrie. It's a lovely part of the world, enjoying it.
That's nice in that area. It was interesting when you said we were having a wee chat earlier before we went on air, and we were talking about where we all started and things, and you were telling me that you started off with Montrose Pipe Band, was it?
Yeah, the Royal British Legion, yeah.
The Royal British Legion Band, and of course I started with a Royal British Legion Band as well. I started with Bigger, and we were chatting about how the Legion bands used to get together sometimes and play at things for at the castle and different things. So it was really interesting. It was a great upbringing for me. So I've always been heavily kind of involved with Legion bands right through. It's been really nice. And I don't know, did you ever go to the solo competitions at the Poppy Factory as well?
Yeah, I did. They had two. Twice I played in a junior competition just before I joined the army. It had just been introduced for band players, because I used to go down and watch, because that was a really big competition. You know, the big names here, John Burgess, Ian McFadden. And then they decided to have a competition for the band players, so I went down and actually presented for the winner. You got an actual gold medal from the American Legion. And I was lucky enough to have won that competition both times that I played in it. Yeah, so I've got these 2 gold medals lying in the house from America. So
I think I've got a bronze one somewhere. I got a bronze one for them, but it's a chunky medal. It was a real.
Yeah.
I think I was about 11 and played Caberfait or something like that.
Right.
But good memories. Good. It was a big exciting day out to get to go and see the Poppy Factory.
Can I just say as well, Ross, them pipes that you're playing are really, really beautiful tone comes off them. I really enjoyed your playing, and that composition, the slow air, is really, really nice. I like it a lot. So well done there.
Thank you very much. I'm flattered. I'll pass on. I'm sure the person that's made them's watching as well, but I'll pass that on if he has missed it. Thank you very much. That means a lot.
My whole competition time that I was competing, I played with a set of Glens, probably from about the early 80s. But they're actually sold to me as like, they were sold as McDougall's, but they were definitely Glenn's. But they were a really, really great pipe. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, these are beautiful, and they've just brought out the JR Glen version as well, which I've just got photographs of today, and they're just beautiful, beautiful things.
It's all good. It's great fun. And Stuart, this week I've been so chuffed because you sent me a new book, which we'll talk about a wee bit later on. And I played a couple of 6/8 matches on my wee screen the other day. Just
Yeah, it was very good.
it was
Nice, yeah.
sounded fantastic. It sounded magic on the accordion as well. But what I thought was, we'll get a wee tune for yourself here. We work some videos that you've done for us before, and why not start off with a couple of 6/8 matches? Can you tell us about this couple of 6/8s where they were inspired from?
Yeah, well, the first tune's called the Tash of the North. And I was actually asked if I would compose this tune by, it was actually Prince Charles who actually approached me and said, would you like to compose a tune for the General Sir Peter Graham, whose nickname is the Tash, because he's got this really fantastic moustache that he's had all through his military career. And there's a tune called The Tash that Pipe Major Brian McRae, who used to be the Sovereign's Piper and also Pipe Major of the Gordons, had written this tune previously, a way back. So Prince Charles says to me, it was at a regimental function, he just came up and says, oh, by the way, he says, he was just walking away and he came back and says, do you think you could compose a tune for our general, our colonel of the regiment, and you could call it The Tash of the North, you see? And I thought it was a little bit of a joke, really, but so I just thought, no, so I just went ahead and did it, so I just composed it. And then you've got to go through all the sort of, you've got to then properly write the letters to the royal family saying that you've done this, you see, and then it's all got to be approved and all that, and then later it got presented to General Sir Peter Graham at Birk Hall at Prince Charles's house, just outside on Royal D side. The second tune I composed for the 30th anniversary of Aberdeen Asset Management, which is a company that I've been lucky enough to go and play for quite a few times. So when it got to the 30th anniversary, again I was asked if I would compose a tune, and I did this. In the book I've just called it the Anniversary March rather than the big long sort of title, but it's the full title's at the foot of the tune. Yeah. Sometimes when you name a tune, you can maybe won't get played so much because of the name like that. You know, it's the Anniversary March is more open to people to play it, but the whole history of the tune is there. So that's
I was just trying to imagine Prince Charles going up and asking you to compose a tune. It's not like you could really turn around and say no, is it?
No, but I mean, well, I suppose he's a colonel of the regiment, you know.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
being the pipe major of the regiment, you actually I've met Prince Charles quite a lot over the years. So.
He used to come. My father was a gamekeeper in the borders of Scotland for Lord Hume, and Prince Charles used to come pheasant shooting sometimes as well. So. It was nice connections. Anyway, let's have a wee listen to these Bonnie 6/8s, and I'm glad you said yes and wrote it for them.
Thanks very
Beautiful
much.
success. Beautiful
Really?
success. You know that second one there. You know when you get a tune that there's always a wee catch that catches your ear and always holds you there, and that wee semi-quaver trick you use in the third measure there. Humpity.
Right.
Huddy. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Love it. Very, very good.
Well, thanks very much.
So, so you started with Montrose pipe band when you were a youngster, and then you went to the army. And you were telling me earlier, you went to the army pretty young, didn't you, Stuart?
Yeah, well, in these days they had junior service, and it really was junior service, because I think that the lowest age you could join was 15 and 10 months, and I was like 15 and 10 months when I joined. When my mind was made up, you know, it's probably at 13, I was definitely going to be joining the army. Lots of people, school teachers, maybe tried to sort of change your mind. But my mind was made up, and at 15 and 10 months joined the junior service, and then we joined the junior school of music after your basic training in Edinburgh, and I spent about just under 2 years there, and that was great. You know, you ended up the pipe major of the junior band, and you're given responsibility. You know, from that age, all the adult instructors, they just stand back and they say, you're the corporal, you're the sergeant or whatever, you need to organise it, you need to take control. So you learnt how to do leadership things very, very early, and that was, I learned so much at that time, and that probably set the platform for my career. And then I went on and had a 30-year career in the army, pipe major at Gordon Highlanders.
What inspired you to join the army? Did you just think, I wouldn't mind joining the army?
Well,
or was it musical, or was it through?
It was musical. I mean, at that time, you know, books can be so influential. You know, the Scots Guards book, you know, everybody had the Scots Guards book, you know, learning, and Queen's on Highlanders book at that time as well. And you're playing the tunes, but you're also looking at the pictures, you know, with the pipe majors. And you're just at that age, you're going, I can see me, I want to be one of them. You know, and it's probably just as simple as that, really. And I used to go and play for an old piper in Lornskirk in the village or the town where I was brought up, and he was a corporal piper in the Gordons during the First World War, and he was a great old lad, and he gave me a lot of encouragement as well. So just being connected with these people, it just sort of made my mind up, you know, the army's for me, you know. So
yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah. On you go, Ross. Ken, you've got a wee delay, so we'll
I've got. You mentioned something there about having the responsibility at a young age, you know, and you're guided through your peers at that age. But I teach at Robert Gordon's, and we've got the Air Cadets and the Army Cadets through the school up there, and you can see instantly that I think they can join the cadets at 12, and you can see straight away just having that extra little bit of responsibility and that kind of safe sort of environment to try out the leadership stuff. It's such a huge jump that you can see some of these kids go through at that age, you know. Yeah,
well, I mean, when I joined the army, I was 5'3" when I joined the army, and I'm 6'3" now, and I was 6'3" probably about when I was maybe just 18. So I grew very quickly as well. But so at that age in juniors, at 5'3", and then you're a lance corporal, and I've been told, right, you've got to go and get everybody to make sure that they go and sweep all the floors and tidy up in the morning. And you're going, how am I going to be able to tell these guys that are 6 foot odd, and I'm just a small wee guy, and they've been there for a year and a half, some of these soldiers. So that's scary. But at the same time, I mean, you'll lay in your bed at night thinking, how am I going to deal with this tomorrow? But that's what you learn. You know, you say.
So Stuart, you can genuinely say I grew up in the army then.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
By
yeah. Yeah, I had to get my trousers changed. I had to go and get them exchanged about every sort of 2 months. They were too short. The quartermaster's going, oh, he's no back again. You know. So.
Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. So it was the Gordon Highlanders you went to first?
Yeah, that was my regiment of choice.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to I became pipe major of the Gordon Highlanders. I was when I first joined, the pipe major was a pipe major called Pipe Major Ronnie Henderson, and then it was Pipe Major Billy Rugg after me. After Ronnie, and then it was myself. And the two of them, I learned so much of Ronnie and Billy. They were really good pipe majors, and you know they gave me a sort of good grounding. And then you just when you take over, you put your own mark on it, and it's great. I mean, for me, out of my whole career, I mean, being the actual pipe major of the band, that's the highlight. You know, you've got your team, you've got your pipers and your drummers, and you teach them what you want them to play and how you want them to perform, and I was lucky that I was pipe major in Berlin. The regiment was stationed in Berlin, and we were so busy over there playing. We were maybe the wall had just came down as well, so. We were doing maybe 2 or 3 jobs a day, you know, every day of the week, you know, so it's full on. And a really good band, great bunch of, you know, pipers and drummers. It's a sort of family. The pipe band's a family with sort of platoon within the regiment.
And did you do a lot of touring with the pipe band as well? Could you get sent anywhere to play, basically? Or?
Oh yeah. The bands, yes. In the band we travelled a lot, but even as a solo piper, because, you know, Burn Suppers, Caledonian Society, St Andrews Nights, through the embassies and that, it was great. You mean, you might be thinking, oh, I'm going away to the ranges to fire, to do fire weapons for a week, and then 2 days before you're due to go to the ranges, you get a phone call saying one piper needs to go to Sri Lanka or something to play it, and then you say, well, lucky me, I guess. It was great. It was great. You know, I've played in all 5 continents. You know, and that's the beauty of playing the pipes or even a Scottish traditional instrument. You know, you get these opportunities because Scots people are all over the world. You know, and they want us to come and perform.
They do. That's kind of calmed down in the last week while just with the virus and things. But
yeah, of course, definitely.
I know I'd had an inquiry about going to Uganda this year for the St Andrews Night and things. And I, like yourself, has done a lot of the Scottish societies abroad and things. And it's amazing the places you can end up, you know. And as you say, Scots, it doesn't matter where you go, it doesn't. And they always know somebody that you know as well when you get there.
Yeah.
You know, I mind getting somewhere and they asked me if the old 80-year-old woman still had the wee shop in the local village and things. You know, it's just incredible. It's just the diaspora is so huge. So.
I remember when you mentioned about a week before you're doing anything, somebody says, "Yeah, we need a piper to do this." That happened to be at Fort George when I was in the Black Watch. We were having a band practice, and Mick Elder was the pipe major at the time, and we were all having a band practice, and he came bursting into the room, and he bursts into the circle, and he points to me and he says, "Pack your bags, you're going to Beirut," and then he walked out again, and we were all just standing there, and then a friend of mine, Andy Knight from Dundee, just looked at me and he says, "I didn't think you were playing that bad." But that was it. The next day,
out to Beirut. What were you doing in Beirut?
I piped for the Navy. The Navy was taking a ship in there for the first time since the 80s or something. So it was a great trip actually. HMS Edinburgh it was.
We used to play in ships quite a lot. You know, playing into the harbour. And here's a story that this is in the early 80s, and I was tasked to play HMS Shetland into Lerwick.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were up to, I think it might have been Fraserburgh, and we got onto this speedboat and we crossed onto the actual HMS Shetland, and you climb up, you know, up the side of the ladder. And within 3 seconds of being on board, I'm puking up over the side. I was just, seasick, totally seasick. I mean, I've never, that's when I realised I know that I haven't got sea legs. So then, I was okay if I was lying down flat, as horizontal. And then I says, how long will it take us to get to Lerwick? Oh, 2 days, we're going on manoeuvres. So it was, so we're in this sort of bunkhouse, and I think it must have been, there was definitely 3 bunks, maybe even 4. So there was probably about, maybe at least 12 people in this bunkhouse. And I'm sort of, every time I tried to stand up, within a few minutes, I'm feeling sick. So the sailors then come on, start winding you up. They're bringing in like water, boiling water with carrots in it and stuff. And said, would you like something to eat? So anyway, cut a long story short, we arrived in Lerwick, and I got my number 1 dress on, and I piped into harbour, and then that was sometime, I think it was in the afternoon, and then we were on sort of dry land then, and I started to feel a bit better. All the sailors went into Lerwick out for the night out, and I'm going, I'm no in the mood for, going, I need to get something to eat. So this is where I got my own back, but I didn't actually realise it at the time. I was only about 18 or 19, and so I went into a restaurant in Lerwick, and I had something to eat. Little did I know that it was absolutely loaded in garlic. And I'd never had sort of garlic before. I didn't even know what it was. So I just went back to the bunkhouse and went to sleep. So, but when everybody came back, the place was absolutely reeking, with garlic. So I got my own back, you see. So that was it. It's probably still reeking now after all these years. But
I was just trying to imagine there, thinking when you're lying doing, it's not the easiest way to play the pipes either. If that's the way to do it, wouldn't have been great. There's a wee Strathspey and reel here you sent us. It's at Crackers. And the falls at Garrawalt, is that right?
Yeah, the falls of Garrawalt, yeah.
And Mount Blair. Where's Garrawalt then?
Yeah, the falls of Garrawalt's it's in the Ballacabouie Forest, which is in Royal Dee side. It's sort of in the Invercold estate. And it's a lovely area to walk. And if you go maybe it's probably about 3/4 of a mile off the main road. Lovely waterfall, and it's a cast iron bridge across it. If you ever get the chance, it's a lovely place to go and see.
Right.
So, and I really love that area as well. I love Perthshire, I love Deeside, and I love Angus Glens. They're all sort of connected,
Yeah, brilliant. And then Mount Blair is the reel.
Yeah. So it's just a sort of competition sort of style, sort of Strathspey and reel that I
You
wrote.
played quite a bit of solo competition as well, didn't you?
Yeah, over the years. Yeah. I had a good opportunity. It was given to me from the military to go and compete. So any opportunity that I got, I got out there and gave it a go.
And you were fairly successful as well in the solos. You done good. I won the 2 worst prizes in the world, being second in the gold medal twice. Yeah.
But I was knocking on the door, so that's good enough for me. So.
Absolutely. Right, let's have a wee listen to this Strathspey and reel. They're fantastic.
Love that reel. Love the reel. Brilliant.
Very good.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
I think when I was saying earlier, and I noticed Ian Duncan had put a comment on there earlier that saying really nice melodies, Stuart, and we were speaking about that earlier as well. And melody is so important, and sometimes a lot of composers forget that, and it just becomes all technical and how many embellishments you can get in here and everywhere.
Yeah.
But without that strong melody in there, we're struggling, aren't we? And,
Yeah.
I think Bob Worrell, when we had him on, Bob talked about that strong melody and going up and down the scale and using that scale, because it's only 9 notes, so we want to use it to the best of our ability.
Yeah, yeah. With embellishments, the embellishments are there to enhance the tunes, so you've got to use them wisely, and I'm a great believer in less is more.
Yes.
Because if you over embellish a tune or compose a tune which got lots of embellishments in it, and it might display fancy fingerwork, but not everybody can play that. So it's making your tunes accessible, to a lot more people. Let the people that have got the ability, to put all the extra shakes and that. And so if somebody takes one of my tunes and wants to put in extra work, then fine, go ahead. They can go and do it. Some people can do it well, if they're really gifted and natural players, they can put in all that extra work and still keep the music. But the more you put in, the danger is you're going to start to maybe lose the musical sort of quality of the tune. There's not many people really who can really play tunes, fast and get all the work in and put extra work in. There's only a few that I really know. I mean, Gordon Duncan is one name, for example, where a piper would play, and he put in lots of work, but he didn't lose the music of the tune.
No.
He was a...
But I find that going through your tunes this week, it's extremely musical, and do you play any other instruments as well, or is it just pipes that you've played? Or?
No, I mean my family history. I've got connections to sort of way back. The fiddlers for the northeast of Scotland, the Dickies and the Hardys. There's sort of connections there. My cousin Brian Burst from Arbroath, he was a really good fiddle player in the late 70s, early 80s. He was winning a lot of prizes. He won the Mod, I think he won the Golden Fiddle Award, and composed a lot of tunes as well. I mean, he's got lots of tunes that he's composed that's never been published. He sort of broke away from music and for a while, and he's now sort of back into it again, which is great to see.
Yeah.
So I just think it's the northeast. For me, I love Strathspey's. I love Strathspey's music. So I don't hear pipes in my head all the time when I'm writing music. I hear I imagine somebody like you or the fiddle or playing these tunes. You're thinking in the bigger picture. See, I arrange a lot of music. Yeah, I'm not just thinking of the pipes. Sometimes I'm even thinking about the drumming. How's the drumming going to fit into the pipe score?
Okay.
Because I do a lot of music writing for mass pipes and drums. You see, so and I arrange music and write music for the Basel Tattoo in Switzerland, and I used to do it for the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo when I was director for army bagpipe music. So that's where I learned a lot about this. So I started composing later in my career. It was probably once I became a pipe major I started to write the odd tune, and then it really sort of took off. I think when I left the army and I went to the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland and the National Piping Centre and was teaching the students on the degree course, they're all expected to be, creative and write music, and you're surrounded by that. I shared an office with Finlay MacDonald, a fantastic musician, so you couldn't help to be inspired. So that's what I started to write a lot of music then, and that's what brought about my first collection of music, just a couple of years after I joined the Piping Centre.
Because I was just going to mention that the tunes that we've been hearing tonight is out your new book, the second collection, aren't they?
Yeah, the Park Grove. Yeah, the Park Grove collection. Yeah.
Now it's available as a digital download, the Park Grove just now, isn't it? Or?
Yeah. Well, I did it first of all as a digital book. To be quite honest, I had no plans of bringing out another book for at least another 2 or 3 years.
Mhm.
But because of the situation we all find ourselves in, you know, I'm at home all the time. You know, what do? You need something to keep you active. So I knew I was probably short, maybe 20 tunes for a book. So I started writing tunes and saying, right,
Get the thinking
let's
cap on.
get the
Yeah,
thinking cap on.
A wee bit similar. I had been writing tunes since I was about 20 years old, but over 50 now. But I'd never brought a book out, and then in lockdown I managed to, with the pushing from my wife Karen, eventually did get a book put out, and I put it out in September, and it went really well. So I got book 2 out in January, so 4 months after, because I had about 300 tunes lying or something. So
Incredible.
but it's the same thing. Yeah, this is one thing that lockdown's been awful good to us. I think there's a lot of books come out this year, and there's a lot of material and music that's been lying that might never have came out because people might not have got round to it.
No, totally. And I find as well that because you're not getting sidetracked either, you're very focused.
Yeah.
So I find it quite stimulating in a way, and I really enjoyed the process of writing the tunes. And some of them actually came quite easy.
Have you got a system, or, like what do you do when you? I mean, you've mentioned before you've had people like Prince Charles that have asked you to write tunes specifically. So you're on the spot there. You have to
Yeah.
Is it in your own space? Have you got a system that you think about that gets a tune on paper, or is it just?
I think because I write so much music anyway to hand out to bands for to play in events. So just actually writing music, you start to subconsciously maybe become aware of note patterns and how you can use them. And then I realised that, I mean, there's no way I could do this when I was younger, but I find it quite easy now. I'll say I'll play a 6/8 march in the pipes, and I say, like, when I get to the end of the 6/8 march, I'm just going to keep going. The first thing that comes into my head, and see, and I record it, and just see how far. Sometimes I can go on for 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. But you might play the odd wrong note and all, but you're improvising, and you're getting into the rhythm of the tune, and you're playing all over the place. But then you listen back to that and you go, oh, that's a really musical passage there. And that's all you really need. You get a few musical passages and you build the tune from there.
Yeah,
another interesting thing was a really, in my opinion, a really fantastic composer, Dr. Bruce Thompson. He composed a lot of fantastic tunes. And something that he said that I picked up on was, says, when you compose a tune and then you've got to go away and let it sit and you come back to it and then look at it again. And if you're really happy with it, then that's great. But you might find you might want to change a little bit here. You might just have to play around with it. And I've done that quite a lot with some of these tunes till I found I was happy in my own mind. There's a fluency through the whole tune where maybe there wasn't before. So maybe my earlier tunes that I composed, although I would say that they're nice enough tunes in my mind, but that's up to the public to decide that. I feel that I've got a lot more experience now as a composer.
So if folk want to buy these the books and that, you've got the website now, haven't you? Cam, just to put that up, there's Stuart's website, folks. You can go on and you can purchase the books.
Yeah, and the Park Grove collection is now, it's just about to come out as a physical book.
Oh, brilliant. Well, that's good.
I took it out as a digital book because of the COVID situation, you know, thinking, well, who wants to be running out to the post office and trying to post books? And I just thought it was a sensible thing to do at the time. But I've been inundated with people asking me, are you planning to take out a physical book? So obviously... So it raises the debate or the question. I mean, I think a digital book's good. It's good for people who's on the move, although people are not on the move at the moment, to have a digital book. But I still think the feeling is, especially by pipers, I think they still want to have a physical book. They can flick through the pages, you know, it's something they can hold in their hands, you know, rather than just on your computer.
Yeah. And see, just to touch, you touched on it yourself there, Stuart. You said about becoming director of the Army School at Pipe. So what did that entail for the folks out there? Being the director, what was that
Well,
day-to-day job?
once you became the director, you were then in charge of all military piping and drumming in the British Army. So you run the school, which is in Stuart House, in just outside next to Redford Barracks, and all piping and drumming training gets done at the school. So you're responsible for all the training, pipe majors course, the drumming courses, and you've got to then manage all your instructors. You then got to then inspect all the bands in the army and report to all the commanding officers and what's the current standard of the band. And you're in charge of all state ceremonial in the army when there's pipes. Yeah, it's a pretty full-on job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty full-on, and also organise the mass pipes and drums at the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo, which is a real. I really enjoyed that part because I like performance. I like to write stuff, put it together, and see it be performed. Because you get an end result. It's very satisfying.
Well, listen, we've got a wee slow air here and a hornpipe. We'll maybe have a wee quick listen to it, and then we'll come back to you and speak to you very quickly before we have to go.
Yeah.
And because the tattoo stuff, and we'll see what you've been doing up to date before we go, that'd be great. But here's the slow air heading for the harbour and the Doolander.
Yes, the Doolander.
What's a Doolander?
The Doolander, in the army, we used to, in the old photographs, they used to have the old Balmoral hats, the Tam O'Shanter hats. They were really big ones. Well, we used to call them, their nickname in the army for them was Doolanders, because we're that big, a pigeon, could land on them. So that's the Doolander.
Why, that's fantastic. Here we go, here's this here. hornpipe.
Thanks very
That's
much.
gonna be I thought I'd have a wee tune along with that there when it was playing. I've not got to that one in the book yet, so I'll get that one going. That's a cracker.
Great.
Really swinging. So you've done a lot of work with the tattoos. You said you enjoyed that, and
Yeah, I love working with large groups.
yeah,
You know, a lot of people would run a mile, you know, working with maybe 10 bands or. But I love the tattoo. I just love. And these bands are not like grade 1 bands, or, you know, there can be a range from maybe grade 2 down to maybe grade 4. And they've got a varying standards, but you've got to pull them all together to play as one. And that's a challenge that I love. And we all come together. Socially, it's great. They play well, and we work well together. We all work as a team.
I suppose that's over a couple of hundred bandsmen anyway you're working with, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's normally around about maybe anywhere between 150 and 200, you know, for Basel. I did a tattoo in the Kremlin Zoria in Red Square in 2007, where we took 16 pipe bands to play on a tattoo in Moscow. And there's over 300 pipers and drummers, and they all had to come out of the Kremlin gate. And it's the first time there'd been British soldiers actually inside the Kremlin, you know. So that was a big. It took actually, I think it was about three and a half times through the march on set tunes to get everybody out. I had two sets of two tunes to get us all out, and I had to play them 3 times through to get everybody out, because it was quite a narrow gate. So that was a big highlight for me. You can see it online, just put Kremlin Zoria 2007, and it comes up with this show. And there's the finale at the end. They're playing Amazing Grace, 300 pipers and drummers, and over 1,000 musicians playing along with the pipes. It's absolutely incredible.
That's
You know.
amazing.
That is incredible. That is incredible. Unreal.
Is that all army bands then?
No, some were army. There was bands from there's bands from South Africa, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, all the sort of Commonwealth bands. In Basel, we a lot of bands from Europe and Malta. I mean, I work with bands from all over the world. Yeah, and I've got friends from all over the place just through working with the bands. It's great.
That probably influences your composing as well, doesn't it? Because you're hearing all these different sounds and you're hearing all the musicality that's going out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been working now in Basel Tattoo since 2007, and I go to Basel maybe 4 or 5 times a year normally. Basel's like my second home, really, and I do a lot of work, you know, with I got a person called Christoph Walter who's got an orchestra. And he's the sort of the principal director of music for the tattoo, and I direct the mass pipes and drums. We work a lot together now. We do a lot of gigs, Christmas concerts. I'll go and play, you know, with his orchestra. He's a great accordion player as well. You know, he loves the accordion. I mean, he plays about maybe 10 instruments. He's a fantastic musician. So I've learned a lot from him and the orchestra. You know, I love playing with the orchestra.
Gosh,
One instrument.
I was in Bal about maybe 30 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Playing a thing, and it was. I'm sure the Gordon Highlanders pipe band was there at that one actually.
Well, I would have been the pipe major then, because I remember going to Basel and we're playing in a big circus tent thing. It was,
I was playing with the folk group at night time at that one.
Yeah.
We done a concert at night time and sung Scottish songs and all that. That was me that was playing with that one. So. But there was the Gordons and there was City of Glasgow and was
That's
Edinburgh
right.
Police not there or somebody?
I might have been Edinburgh Police or maybe Grampian Police, I'm not sure.
The
about
Grampian Police,
I
yes,
might have been
yes,
Grampian,
that's
yeah.
Oh well, there we go. We've shared the same stages already there. That's fine.
And there's somebody watching this show tonight, his name's Joe Darrich, so I'll give him a plug, because he was a sergeant major in the Gordon Highlanders, and he used to travel with the band all the time, and he came down to Basel on that trip, and he had a fantastic time.
That's fantastic. So you were the pipe major at that time, because we just arrived and we played the big concert at night time, and it was in the big marquee thing, and we went on and done all the Scottish soldier stuffs and all that kind of stuff, and the place went crazy. It went absolutely mental. Everybody was singing and dancing, and it was just, in fact, one of the lads that was with us, Davy Vernon, the accordion player, he told me he's found a tape of that the other day in his house.
All right, that's
The concert. So if I get a hold of it, I'll get a copy sent to you. That would be fantastic. That would be great. Listen, so we could blather on. I'd love to get one wee set of jigs in here that you've got. It's Cargill's Leap, is that right? Skimming the Water, the Quantum Leap, and the Glass Chanter.
Glass Chanter, yeah.
You'll have to tell us about the Glass Chanter, because I just can't.
Well, the Glass Chanter, in the Highland Games, anywhere north of Aviemore, there used to be a league. Whoever won the most points in the pipe and accumulated in that league was actually won the Glass Chanter, which was made by Caithness Glass. I think it might have been the Akergill Tower that sponsored it.
Okay.
So there was this Glass Chanter, and I think I won it in 1997. I won that chanter going round the games. I think Alistair Gillis he won it a few times, and the great piper Donald John McIntyre, he won it a few times. Neil Matheson, all great players, they won it. So I think if you won it 3 times, you maybe got to keep it. So I won it the once. So
you got a lenny it. So you just got a
handed it back intact.
Not bad. Here's this wee set of jigs. Throw it.
Cheers.
Great stuff. Yeah.
I love those jigs, especially the second jig there. You know, I love piping for Highland dancers, and that second jig there is when you can see the dancers actually properly dancing too. You know, jigs are very 1, 2, 3 sometimes, but that's a great dancing jig, I think.
The mass pipes and drums just played that in Basel for dancing actually. So.
There could be a few big arrangements with syncopation and all that in there. I could hear a lot of other stuff going on in my head.
Aye. Well, that's going through my head. You see, I've written that tune specifically to allow that to happen.
Yeah, fantastic. Listen, Stuart, it's been so good having you on. We could speak all night, but there's been hundreds of folk on saying brilliant to have you on, and they've so enjoyed this show tonight. I noticed Tony Rees from South Africa on there. Tony said he'd met you out at Ball as well. And,
Yeah.
but they were all, it's just so good. So all we can do is really thank you so much for giving us that bit of time tonight. And I think we'll have to get you on another night sometime, because I think we've got a smidgen of what you've done here already.
Well, it's been really kind of you to give me the invite. I mean, it's an honour to be on your show. I mean, what you guys do is great, you know, especially during this time. You're bringing a lot of happiness to a lot of people. So I thank you for what you do, you know, on behalf of the public.
If we make one person smile, it's worth it. That'll do.
And you know, Peter, thanks to you and Ross and to Karen, you know, the behind the scenes production is very important, putting us all together. So the whole team, thank you very much, and I wish you all the best.
We're really lucky to have her backstage, but don't praise her up too much or we'll have to pay her.
And Ross, all the best to you and your new endeavours.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Stuart, thank you so much, and I hope to catch up very soon, and I'll be playing some of your tunes, so I'll give you a shout when I'm doing it.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Cheers, guys.
Thanks again. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, what an amazing man.
You said it, Peter. You said it. You'll need to get him back on, because that's a smidgen. And you know, one of the things that we've had so many great musicians that have come through the conservatoire, young musicians that are going to take the music that different way, but like Stuart's come through the army way, when probably the army was at its strongest, and they're telling the story tonight of like the first time British soldiers were inside the Red Gate, and that's 1,000 musicians. It's enormous. It's enormous.
And then what you said earlier, kind of funny, when you were saying about how you meet people years and years ago, and then it comes up in your career again, and then there, right at the end of the interview, I said, "Oh, I was in Ball about 30 years ago," and he said, "I was the pipe major that night." So we actually met each other. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that works.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so good.
Fantastic. I must thank Robbie Shepherd as well. Robbie gave us a wee mention yesterday in his column in the Press and Journal yesterday.
Brilliant.
He does a wee column, the Doric column or something, and he gave Ewan Galloway and Paul Anderson and myself a wee mention for playing some tunes online to make folk. So it's cool.
Well,
Robbie's still in the go. And look
and his
after
ears
yourself.
in.
He had a wee fall there, Robbie, and he hurt his arm in the ice or something, but hopefully you're getting better now. So all the best, Robbie. Hope you're doing fine. Right, we've got another guest waiting back here, and it's Ayrshire, so they go to their bed early, so we better get them on as quick as possible. So I'm going to bring on this absolute fantastic fiddle player, Mr. Alistair McCulloch. Are you with us, Alistair? There he is. Can you unmute him someday? Alistair, can you unmute your mic? There we go. Are you there?
Hello there, gentlemen. How are you?
We're very well. How are you getting on?
I'm doing fine. It's good to see you both.
Yeah, you're doing all right. Is it? How's Ayrshire tonight? All right.
Yeah, it's been nice to have a little bit of spring weather over the past few days. So been out walking a lot. And, yeah.
Yeah, getting out these days is it's a kind of novelty, isn't it? It's a kind of funny thing that we used to take for granted. And like yourself, a full-time musician, it's been a strange old year.
It's been a funny year, but I think we'll take positives from it as well. I mean, I'm very lucky in that where I live in Ayr is about 100 yards from the sea, so I can go for a walk along the beach any time of day, any day. So from that point of view, it's been great just to get out, and I have been doing 4 or 5 miles most days for the past year, and that's certainly a good way to clear the head. And so it has its benefits as well. You can listen to music and take in the wildlife and just slow down a wee bit, and I've quite enjoyed that side of things. Although it's obviously been tough not been gigging and not meeting socially with musical friends and such like. Yeah.
But I think, as we touched on earlier with Stuart earlier on as well, it has given us that bit of time to think about music and nothing else as well, if you wanted to. Again, when if we eventually go out in the band, the band's going to get the shock of their life, that the repertoire is going to have changed completely for what we've played for about the last 10 years.
I get that.
Do you think like I don't play in the dance bands or the scenes that you guys are in, But I do think that's going to be a big thing for pipe bands. Do you think that's going to be like a reset button for a lot of folk?
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of folk out there thinking what's going to go down better and what's going to work and try new things, and yeah, I think so. I think it'll freshen up quite a bit. But
Yeah, I don't think
Alistair,
there's
you
anything
only
wrong
got,
with
listen, we've got some videos of you to play tonight as well, but it would be awful good if you would fancy playing us a wee tune live. Do you fancy giving it a wee shot live?
that. Yeah, I'll do that for you, no problem.
Yeah. You still find the fiddle, you haven't lost it or anything like that.
It's beside me here. But, you're talking a lot with Stuart about composing, and I know you've your own book out, Peter, a great collection of tunes, the St Ninians collection, and I've got a couple of tune books of my own, but I've never been a prolific tune writer. I mean, I'll do maybe in a typical year 5 or 6 tunes an entire year, but because of the lockdown I've been composing a wee bit more. And I'll tell you after I play this tune a bit more about.
Well, I was going to speak to you about the books and all that and everything as well, and make sure because I've ended up. There's a fellow Andy Kane up here, Andy the fiddle player, and he teaches a lot, and he uses a lot of your tunes actually.
I know Andy well. Yes, I believe he uses a lot of tunes.
I've ended up playing piano in his group for him sometimes, and we've ended up and he plays quite a number of your tunes, so it's good. So we're coming across the McCulloch compositions. So.
Fantastic. Well,
So what are you going to give us now?
This is a very new tune. I'll tell you a wee bit more about this after I play it, but this tune was donated to the National Trust for Scotland USA Foundation, which celebrated its 20th year last year. And usually the foundation has a big fundraising gala in New York each year, but obviously the virus put paid to that this year, so it was all virtual. So along with many other items for auction, I donated this tune, and someone was able to name the tune. So it's entitled Bruce Robert Burton. I wrote it last summer and I posted it on social media at the time, and it seemed to go down quite well. So I hope you like it. So it's a slow air.
Oh,
Lovely, lovely, lovely.
see, you even get a real round of applause in this show.
Thank you very much.
something we've not been used to for a while. Beautiful tune, beautiful melody, lovely.
Thank you. Yeah, it's quite simple.
Very,
I'm
very
quite happy
good,
with that one
very good.
myself.
Tell us then, fiddle. Why fiddle? When you were a wee boy, you went, I want to play the fiddle. Or did you?
Well, I suppose I kind of fell into it at a fairly young age. My late father was a piper and a fiddler and a long-term member of the local Strathspey Real Society in Ayr and also the Scottish Fiddle Orchestra. So as soon as I started taking violin lessons at school, and very soon after that I was in the local fiddle orchestra. And the Ayrshire Fiddle Orchestra, which is a youth orchestra, was founded around the same time. That was back in 1982, and I was a very small boy. So I had many years playing in fiddle orchestras, and that was a great place to just, experience the discipline of reading music and the whole camaraderie and the joy of looking at music making in the group, and many opportunities to travel widely. When I was in the Ayrshire Fiddle Orchestra in particular, I was a member of the orchestra as a player right through until about 1995. And then I was invited to be musical director, and I was musical director of the orchestra from 2003 right through to 2011, if I remember right. And the opportunities were fantastic. We toured.
And how many people, we're talking lots of big groups here tonight, how many people would you have been working with in a group then? Or?
Yeah, it was all young people, but most young people would join, round about 11 or 12 years old, and once they headed off to university or employment, they would kind of move on. So at any one time, we'd be working with upwards of 100 youngsters. So it's been a hugely successful organisation. It will be celebrating its 40th anniversary next year, which I'm hoping will be able to go ahead. So with a kind of spectacular concert in Glasgow. But over the years, I often wonder how many young players have been through the Ayrshire Fiddle Orchestra. It must be well into the thousands now. I was about to say, over the years, we've been several tours to the States and Canada, Australia, New Zealand. We've been to China. In more recent years, orchestras have toured in Japan and South Africa, all through Europe, Scandinavia. So it's been a fantastic way to see the world.
Brilliant.
For me, that was a great experience at a young age.
And being musical director, did that give you a chance then? We were talking about that, you've done composing over the years and you've got some books. Did that give you a chance to maybe try out some of your stuff in the orchestra as well and let them?
Very much so, Peter, yeah. I should have mentioned, I was also a member of the Scottish Fiddle Orchestra at the same time, which was directed then, of course, by the late, great John Mason. And I grew up sort of learning my trade, as I said, in the orchestras, and I probably became aware of how John orchestrated and wrote music and arranged, and that was always of interest to me. So as I got older and more experienced, I started to dabble in it myself, and it's something I still enjoy, like larger scale arrangements where you can use a whole range of parts and put it all together in a sort of concert hall setting.
Yeah.
And
I never realised when you said there that your father was a piper, so you were brought up with the pipes and knowing what pipe scales and all that were as well then.
Very much so. Yeah, my dad was a very good piper, and there was music in the house a lot when I was young, and I was always into it. When I was a wee boy, when I was at age 3, I think my dad used to sit me on his knee and play with the chanter, and my mum tells me that when I was 3 years old, I could name the titles of 100 tunes, and I can still remember what some of them were.
Really?
That's fantastic. That's great. I always think it's really important to know the names of tunes and know the names of composers and things. I don't know if that's because I compose a wee bit myself or what it is, but I really like to respect fellow composers and that, and make sure, and even if it's old tunes, way back looking at the old pipe tunes and that, I like to really try and find out as accurately as possible who wrote that and give them some credit for it, because sometimes some folk go onto stage and go, here's a set of reels and I can't mind who wrote any of them or what they're called. And
absolutely,
you're like,
that's a pet hate of mine, Peter. Yeah. And I think it's important for the audience to know a wee bit about the tunes and the context and the time period and the composers. And many of the tunes I write are inspired by places I've been to or people I've met. And I think it's important for people to connect with the music. And if they know a little bit of the background, that often helps.
And you said you've got 2 books out now, have you?
Yeah, the second one was published about 3 years ago, so probably about approaching halfway to volume 3, but it might be a couple of years away yet.
And so where can people get a hold of this? Can they get them straight for your website?
That's the easiest way at the moment, yeah.
Well, there's the website, folks.
Yeah, you've just put it on the screen there. So there's a
Yeah,
shop.
remember, we don't
website.
have to run away and get a pen. This is all recorded, and it'll be getting flying about all over the world and a few other places as well when we've finished. So,
Stuart, when we were speaking to Stuart earlier, he was mentioning that he started composing quite late on in his musical career. Where were you when you started? You mentioned about 4 or 5 a year, but were they keepers? Were they ones that you pulled out the bag regularly, or have you got a system in writing?
Well, I kind of wrote my first tune when I was about 15 or 16, and a lot of the tunes I wrote then I would never play now. But I think the first successful tune I wrote a slow air called Riverside Lodge when I was about 18, and that's still one of my most popular tunes. People play that all over the world, so I take that as a real compliment. And I suppose I'm quite critical about it. I quite often have a stab at something. If nothing works, or I've got writer's block, it goes in the waste paper bin quite quickly. But I usually know if I'm going to write something that's half decent, it comes out really quickly. I don't labour it. I think that's the better tune.
You know, when you said there about being very proud when somebody else plays your music, and I know that feeling totally, and there's just something awfully nice, even if they put their cant onto it and put their arrangement on it. It's lovely. But I remember I wrote a tune for my wee girl Grace Elizabeth Wood, and it was a kind of slow air, and the San Francisco Fiddlers recorded it and played it, and somebody sent me a recording of this, and I was chuffed to bits, and I was saying to her, listen to this, she's only 6 years old right enough, and I said, look, listen to this, and she put up with it for a wee while and said, Dad, will you turn that noise off? I'm trying to watch the telly. so that was the end of that one. So,
yeah.
But
that's fantastic. Like having I know the San Francisco Fiddlers. I've actually taught one or two of their members.
Right, they were lovely people.
Yeah, it's a long-established organisation.
It was I think Alistair Fraser had a bit to do with them at one point.
Yes, I think he still does actually.
Yeah, so we'll talk about you teaching in a wee minute as well. Though, let's have a wee tune first. Charlotte's. Tell me about that.
Well, that's interesting. You mentioned your wee girl. Well, Charlotte's Waltz that's named after my daughter. I wrote it 2 years ago, just before her birthday. I think she was 9 at that point. So Charlotte's a real live wire. She's learning the cello at the moment.
Oh, fantastic!
She's really enjoying that, and she's a very good tennis player, and she's just a live wire, mad in horses as well. So I wrote this tune for her, as I said, a couple of years ago. So I hope you like it.
Fantastic. Let's have a wee listen to Charlotte's Waltz.
Thank you.
clapping there. Do you remember that sound, that audience sound?
Well, do you know?
They used- remember the
Yeah.
audience used to slap their hands together or something and make that noise when we played? Well, sometimes.
It's funny when you hear that. Actually, it's funny how much you miss that when you hear it again. You know, that saying you don't know it until it's gone. But when you hear that audience clapping, you think, oh, that's the real bit of the live performance, isn't it? It's that interaction at the end, that second of silence, and then that wall of clapping. That's the thing, isn't it?
A couple of well-known faces playing with you there as well.
Yeah, that's the Alison McCulloch trio, which actually, sadly, last summer we were unable to do our tour of Scotland, which would have been our 20th year. So it started off life in 2001. At that time, I was working with a guitarist called Ross Kennedy, who used to be in the Tannahill Weavers. And then we had, Angus Lyon was in the trio for a period of time. But for the past, it must be 15 years now, myself and Mark and Aaron have been together as a trio. So we do this tour of Scotland every summer, and at other times of the year, various gigs when time permits, because these two guys are pretty busy musicians and often touring. So, but it's great to work with them. They're fantastic players. We've got Mark Duff, who's a founder member of Capercaillie, on whistles, and Aaron Jones, who's played with a whole array of bands. Old Blind Dogs, Kate Rusby bands, Craig Rua, and many more. So Aaron's a brilliant music player, guitarist, and singer.
Because the other channel we work alongside here with Tunes in the House channel with Martin McLeod, and Martin McLeod was one of the founder members of Capercaillie as well. So
that's
him and
right.
Mark must have
Yes,
been together.
Well, funny you mentioned Martin's name, because I was working with him last night. It was the Neil Gow Festival this weekend.
Yeah.
So that was one of the first casualties of lockdown last year. So Pete Clark, who's the festival director and a great fiddler in his own right, and former colleague of mine from the Conservatoire and a good friend, he and Martin decided, in conjunction with Tunes in the House, that we could put together a virtual concert. So I know some of your viewers might have seen it last night. It was 12 fiddlers. Some of the top
it was very good.
It was a great night. Yeah.
I think you can go back and watch that on the Tunes in the House site, no bother as well. It's all
Yes, that'll be available for quite a
it's
bit.
a fantastic night's entertainment if you want to go and watch some of the fiddle music. When you're talking about the casualties, up here, two of the casualties were South Mainland up Heliah and Bray up Heliah, because they missed it last year, but they've also missed it this year again. So they're two of the up Heliahs that have missed 2 years. So unfortunately for all these guys, they had all their suits and everything, all the Viking suits and everything made, ready to go last year. And then they've missed last year, they've missed this year. And you're talking about squads of 30, 40 men and women in these squads. And then praying by next year that they can still fit into them, because if it's anything like the rest of us, everybody's, what was it, Martin Donohoe said he lived next to the fridge for a long time. So I think it might be quite difficult. But anyway, tell us, tuition-wise, you are at the Conservatoire.
Indeed.
Tutoring. But you'd done tutoring privately and all that before you ended up there, hadn't you?
Yeah, I've done a whole variety of teaching roles since I left university. So I did my degree at the University of Strathspey, BA Applied Music, as it was then, a great course. So, and I worked in the music department at Ayrshire College for many years, but I stood down from that about 4 years ago. But I've now been at RCS for over 15 years.
Yeah.
And it's a great place to work, as Stuart was talking about earlier. It's a really inspiring place. There's a lot of talent. There's a real energy. So it's great. But my main role at RCS is fiddle instructor. So myself and Marie Fielding are the two main fiddle instructors. So we teach all the fiddlers on the trad course, and there's also fiddlers from other courses. B.Ed students who are trained to be music teachers, or classical players who maybe do a second study in traditional fiddle. So there's all that going on. And it's great. You get to know the students really well, and we have students from all over the world. And so that's my main role. I'm also part of the professional skills team. So I do a wee bit of lecturing and seminar work, looking at the music industry. You know, just how you go about
Okay.
like organising tours and promoting yourself and learning about the contracts and copyright and self-promotion and web design, all that kind of stuff. Like just the tools that self-employed people needs, particularly in the arts.
Well, we do, and especially nowadays,
Yeah,
more than ever.
absolutely.
That's quite interesting that you're running that course, because you would have been running that course pre-COVID. Has there been stuff that you've learned through this lockdown, that the digitals, because I don't think people have really lent on the digital side as much as they did in the
It's been a
COVID.
huge learning curve for many, like many of my colleagues and a lot of the young players. I mean, I got to admit, I'm not the most technically gifted, but even me, I've learned, you know, how to make videos and hopefully there'll be positive outcomes. I mean, I've been able to open up doors by teaching people further afield. I mean, at the moment, I've got a student in America. I've got another one in Scandinavia. I've got a girl in Newcastle. So, you know, it makes the world a small place. So you mentioned the private teaching. I've been privately teaching fiddle for many years, but I suppose with the dry up of gigs completely, it's something I've kind of ramped up a wee bit in the past 12 months, and I really like it. And you know, I do the lessons in Zoom, and it's not all bad. You know, it's a lot of the things you can do in person, you can do in Zoom as well. It's not great for playing together because of the time lag, but in other respects, it works pretty well.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it, and one of the things that kind of points out sometimes is the hours and hours and hours and stuff like that we travelled on roads and things like that to do things. We don't necessarily have to do that. You can sit in the house and have a lesson for the house, and you know, you think of yourself even going for lessons when you're young, how long it took out your day to go away to go somewhere to get a lesson and that.
Well, that's right.
It's actually giving you more time to do things, so I quite enjoy it. It's quite good. Coiler was the band I knew you in to begin with, though. That was a Cayley band, wasn't it?
That's right. Midcoiler, believe it or not, is still going 32 years after we formed. We were at school at the time, and we kind of got together to play for school Cayleys, and one thing just led to another, and it just kept going and kept going and kept going. And for a period of time in the 90s, when we did a few studio albums where it was when the Cayley band was augmented into a concert band, and we did quite a lot of festivals and trips abroad. But in more recent years, it's been very much Cayley work and function work. But we've been really lucky. Again, you're talking about the Caledonian Society, St Andrews Society scene and the circuit all over the world. So we've been really lucky. I mean, we've ended up in some of the most weird and wonderful places over the years. And like Stuart, I mean, I've played in every continent of the world at some point. You know, I've ended up in places you'd never go to under your own steam. You know, like Kazakhstan and Nigeria, Venezuela, the Arctic.
I think that's the interesting thing. You wouldn't. I remember going to Bangladesh to play a gig, and Bangladesh isn't the kind of place you would pick to go on a holiday. You know, so you probably wouldn't have been there had it not been for that reason. You know, and I got chased by a cobra snake when I was in Bangladesh as well.
My goodness.
That wasn't.
But yeah, I love travel. So just having these opportunities, like I've done a lot of gigs in the Middle East, a lot of gigs in North America, a lot of gigs in Europe, and I think at this point I've probably played fiddle in well over 20 different countries, maybe near 30 actually now.
Yeah. And then tutoring wise, you tutor for, I noticed, is it Boston fiddles and all that? You tutor them as well and do workshops for them.
Yeah, I mean, I've got quite a lot of contacts in New England because I've been out there various times. I was invited out to tutor at Boston Harbour Fiddle School, which was a fantastic event, a fiddle camp on Thompson Island, which is 5 miles offshore. So that was a great trip, and I've been out at the New Hampshire Highland Games. I've been at the Pinewoods Dance Camp, which is a renowned dance school in the summer, which literally is in the middle of a pine wood, and everyone stays in log cabins for 10 days. It's fabulous. So yeah, but I've got contacts, and recently I've done, like during the COVID pandemic, I have done 1 or 2 online concerts and workshops with Ed Perelman, who's based in Maine, and he runs the Fiddle Online website. So that's been great to work with Ed, and he put on a great series called the COVID series, last year when I think he had 3 different programs of fiddlers, each doing a concert each, a 10 gig kind of programme, which is brilliant.
Is
And it's fiddlers from all over the world.
Is that the same fellow that Kevin Henderson wrote the album out with?
That's his dad. So Kevin
dad?
works with Neil.
Okay.
Neil Perron's a brilliant pianist, and him and Kevin. Actually, it's funny you mentioned Kevin. He texted me about 10 minutes before I came on tonight. Aye, he's a good pal. And his football allegiances are on the different side of Glasgow from mine, so we always have quite a lot of banter.
Oh yes. He was actually on a online course thing that I was doing the other night about this kind of thing, about presenting stuff online, and I happened to mention something about 9 or something like that, and I didn't get a very good reaction. So,
well, listen, just maybe one other thing to mention, like, just the mention of Kevin. One thing that's happened during lockdown really successfully has been the establishment of the Scottish Music Academy, which is an online teaching resource pioneered by my friend Blair Parham, who's currently the musical director of the Scottish Fiddle Orchestra and conductor. Him and I grew up together in Ayrshire, and like myself, Blair was a member of the Ayrshire Fiddle Orchestra, and the two of us were in the musical directors team, if you like, in later life. But Blair's a promoter and he has his own company, Scottish Arts, so it kind of forced our hand, I think, a wee bit with lockdown and the fact that no one could go out and gig. So we've gathered together a whole selection of some of the top folk musicians in Scotland. So we've now, I think we've got about 15 tutors teaching fiddle. We have guitar, whistle, mandolin, accordion, cello, harp. So it's growing, and it's growing quite quickly, and it's a fantastic resource. So everything's done by ear. It can be accessed online. It's a kind of subscription-based thing. But there's 3 fiddle tutors at the moment, myself and Kevin Henderson and Jenna Reid. So that's something to look out for if you're interested in tuition. And the good thing is you can access everything regardless of what instrument you play. But it's a great resource. And
the other thing is, all 3 of you have been guests on Tartan Tunes now, so that just shows that
that's good to hear.
That heightens your credibility as well. That's you're right up there.
Absolutely.
That's it. Listen, how's about a wee set of tunes? Remind me how we said this. You to tell me how to say this earlier on.
Well, this set was recorded on my last album, which is called Off the Hook, and this is a live version of it from Folk Club. So it's 3 tunes, 2 slow reels and a fast reel, but the fast reel has got Shetland connections. Very popular tune, which I'm sure you know, written by Andrew Gifford, called The Calgary Fiddler's Welcome to Shetland. But before that tune, we have Jesus and Felicia, which was written by John McCusker, and The Farley Bridge, a wonderful popular tune written by Duncan Chisholm.
Brilliant. Here we go.
And Alistair McCullough.
Hey, I was driving
Superb.
along Alistair.
Where was that you're playing? Where were you playing there?
That was part of a tour. I think the year before last, it was Falkirk Folk Club, which is a very intimate wee club upstairs in, I can't remember the name of the venue in Falkirk, but it's a tiny little upstairs venue, very intimate, and it was great. Everyone was rammed in, so it was a great atmosphere.
Yeah, you've been a wee bit kind of like myself, Alistair. You've played in Scottish dance bands, but you've played in folk bands. You've played as trios. We've played listening music. We've played concert music. Not really just throwing ourselves into one discipline, as it were, and one genre. And I mean, I enjoyed playing dance band stuff, but I also enjoyed playing folk stuff and all that as well. And I think you're fairly similar to that. I kind of get the feeling, but kind of agree on the thing that the music's there and it's just presented differently sometimes. I think that's about it, really, to be honest.
Yeah,
And
I couldn't agree more, and I think it's important as a musician to be versatile, and I like the challenge of playing in different bands and different lineups with different people. And I mean, I don't do a huge amount of dance band work nowadays, but I mean, I've been a member of Ian Cathcart's band for 30 years. I did lots of gigs with John Carmichael at one time. More recently, I've been working with Alan Crookston. You know, I've gigged with Ian Thompson, Gary Blair, and a few others. And it's great, man. It's a different thing, and it's very enjoyable playing for dance and playing for an audience to sit down in a theatre. It's two very different things.
yeah,
So I
and then
bear that in mind when I'm even selecting what to play and
aye.
playing to the audience and all that.
And you mentioned a couple of times earlier there that you worked with the Scottish Fiddle Orchestra and John Mason, and that would have been a great learning curve as well, working with these guys. Cause
I mean, it was fantastic. When I joined the SFO in 1985, and I was 13 at the time, and I was a member until 2001, so that was 16 years, and that was a really great period in the orchestra's history. Every year, when I was younger, we went down to London and played in the Royal Albert Hall. We played in all the major concert halls in Scotland. We had fabulous tours of British Columbia and Alberta, and playing big concerts, and it was it was a great experience. And I still get loads of friends in the SFO. I'm sure there's a few listening tonight, so if you're listening in the SFO, it's great to see you. And I'm going to come back and play a few concerts. I'm technically, I think, now a lifelong member, so I did play one concert a year or two back, which was the first time I'd appeared with orchestra for many years. I really enjoyed it.
you used to
it was great.
You were a kind of soloist with them as well, weren't you? You done some solo.
Yeah, again, I was lucky. When John Mason was very encouraging at a young age. I mean, he had me up playing solos at concerts when I was 14, 15, and when I was a wee bit older than that, I got really into playing North American music. So I played all the classics like the Orange Blossom Special and Listen to the Mockingbird and Back Up and Push and many others. And at that time we founded a small group, kind of hand-picked players from within the orchestra who were all younger. And we had a group called the Folk Symphony, where we dressed up in jeans and Stetsons and did the whole sort of North American style thing. And that was really a lot of fun at the time as well.
That's what Ross wears at the weekend. He goes out with his Stetson on and his jeans.
I'm from Highland Perthshire. That's just what everybody does. That's what we all do. It's like an episode of the Dukes of Hazzard. That's the going out gear up here.
Oh dear.
I'd love to ask you a quick question about the first tune. I've got a delay, so I probably butted in there when I shouldn't have.
Right.
But Alistair, the first tune that you played, the slow air, obviously as a piper, I'm endlessly jealous of the range that the instrument has, and obviously the fiddle is classed as like, sounds like a voice. Neil Gow, like, do you ever sit and think, that kind of slow air that you played, like that for me sounded like it was years old, centuries old. Like how you can nearly hear that instrument as soon as you play it, go back to these days.
Yeah,
is there a modern way that you try and think about that?
Yeah, well, thanks for your compliment first. But I mean, I like writing slow airs. I've written quite a few slow airs, and I know that people play them, so that inspires you to write more. And I think there's just something nice about creating an original melody. And sometimes the simplicity of it for me is the important thing. But I grew up playing also in fiddle competitions and the whole fiddle orchestra thing we spoke about. And I think your experiences continue to evolve as you get older. And I've drawn on so many different players and influences, and I think that kind of molds you into the musician you are. And you use all these experiences, maybe even in a subconscious way, to create your music. So I'm pleased that you think it sounds like a really old tune, because I love the music of the great composers from the past.
Talking of really old, could you tell us a wee bit about the Greg fiddle?
Well,
Because
I
that's
thought
been
you
very
asked me that.
interesting, because did I not see that in national newspaper or somewhere like that you were doing a concert or something?
Yes, it's well. Without getting into too much detail, we'd need another show to talk about the Greg fiddle, but it was the fiddle that Robert Burns learned to dance to, and it was owned by William Gregg, who was a dance master at the Bachelors Club in Terbolton in Ayrshire. And Burns, as a young man, when he was about 18 or 19, was a regular attender at the dances. And I think he told his father that he was going to brush up on his manners, but of course it was Robert Burns who was actually going to meet young ladies of the surrounding area, I'm sure. But the Bachelors Club's a very small building, and it's well known that Burns played the fiddle himself, as there's references to it in various places. So given the small proximity and the fact that fiddle was there, there's every chance that Burns played it himself. Wow. So the instrument was restored about 25 years ago. It was discovered in bits in Mauchline in a farmhouse. So it was restored at that point, fell under the ownership of Wallace Galbraith, who was my first violin teacher, and he was kind of instrumental in getting it playable initially. Then in more recent years it was passed to the National Trust for Scotland, so they now own it, and it's part of the collection at the Burns Museum in Alloway, and it's now one of the most, if it's possibly the most popular artefact on display. And I'm incredibly lucky that I'm the only person that's allowed to play it. And because of that, like any Burns-related events at the museum or the Burns Cottage, I usually get asked to play the instrument. And they had a second phase of restoration about 4 years ago, carried out by David Rattray, who's one of the top luthiers in Britain. And he really spent lots and lots of hours restoring the instrument back to its kind of original Baroque setup. You'll see pictures of it on my website and a bit more information, but it's a real honour to get to play it. And what you were talking about last year, I mentioned that the National Trust for Scotland have a US foundation who celebrated 20 years. Well, the main celebration centred around the Greg fiddle itself. So I went out to the States, believe it or not, just prior to lockdown, spent three weeks on tour across the USA. We started off in New York City, then we went to Chicago, Boston, Los Angeles, Washington DC. It was a brilliant experience. Played over 20 events, all very high profile. It was a joint initiative between the National Trust US and the Scottish Government, so it was a fantastic trip. And, that was quite special. And the media coverage in Scotland was incredible. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It was all the national papers, all the national news channels. It was quite something.
The fiddle, Burns fiddle, possibly going somewhere.
So yeah, I played it actually in January this year. Even given the circumstances, where there was 2 or 3 Burns-related events which were streamed on the internet. We had the Burns Cottage Burns Supper and the Burns Big Night In, which was a very successful venture.
Is it a nice instrument to play, or is it?
It's like an old car. It takes a bit of getting used to. The dimensions are very different from a standard modern day instrument, so it feels very different to play. It's got gut strings, so you need to know how to play it, and you have to treat it with a bit of respect. And I kind of know through experience what tunes and what keys kind of work in the instrument, and that helps. But it needs to be played. If it hangs up in the museum for too long, it needs to be taken out and just given a wee tune every now and then.
Great experience.
I think the beautiful thing about that age of instrument, Gow and Burns, both in the same sort of footsteps in life, really. But there was nowhere else to hear live music unless you went out. Like you couldn't
Well,
put on a, so that must have been a fantastic experience to hear whatever it was at that time. It must have been,
yeah.
because these guys were incredible musicians, masters. So it must have been
fascinating,
a completely different thing. Yeah, fascinating to think that people could have went to see Burns and Gow and Burnham at the same time.
Yeah. But
You
we
know.
actually, I mentioned right at the start the Neil Gow Festival, which took place last night. But one thing we have done, we've pioneered a project called the Twa Fiddles, myself and Pete Clark. Now Pete, as you probably know, is allowed to play Neil Gow's fiddle. Gow had a few fiddles, but Pete's played, I think, probably all of them, and he's the leading modern day exponent of Gow's music. So we've tried to recreate the meeting of Burns and Gow in Dunkeld in 1787 by creating this show called the Twa Fiddles. We've done it in the Gaiety Theatre in Ayr and also at the Scottish Parliament, and hopefully it's something we'll be able to do at the newly unveiled statue of Neil Gow in Dunkeld.
Right.
So we dress up in period costume, all of the music is either Burns or Gow, and we play the two instruments side by side. So there was one particular occasion, we're playing Neil Gow's Lament for His Second Wife, which is without question the most famous Scottish slow air there is, and Pete is playing it on the instrument in which it was written, and it's kind of hair standing up in the back of the neck stuff. So he usually starts off that tune for the first 8 bars, and I come in with a harmony line, and it's quite special.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't really beat that, can you? It's just amazing to hear. I'm hoping to squash in. We're getting a wee bit late here, but I'm hoping to squash in. What would you prefer to play? The Shetland tunes or Water Lily? What do you fancy?
Well, the Shetland set's quite long. It's a full medley, it's about 7 or 8 minutes. Water Lily's a song which comes from, again, it's a live version of one of the tracks on the Off the Hook album. So
Great.
maybe that would be a nice thing, just as a wee aside from the tunes, a wee song maybe from Adam Jones.
Sounds brilliant idea. Let's have that, and then we'll speak to you before we go. Magic, Alistair. Super.
Fabulous.
Here's Water Lily.
Caught between the air and the river's deep, you floating like a lily flower, and you look just like you fell to earth to sleep, and you're waiting on your waking hour. And I swear to God I saw an angel's hands attend you, and that was just the dancing of the light. No mortal or immortal did deliver or defend you. All hands have forsaken you tonight. You're dreaming of a lover who will carry you away, keep you from the crying of the crowd. No cradle in the rushes, you were broken like the day. Darkness fell around you like a shroud. And I swear to God I saw an angel's hands attend you, and that was just the dancing of the light. No mortal or immortal did deliver or defend you. All hands have forsaken you tonight. When they finally surrounded you, did any of them face you? Did you curse the moon and stars above? Those cruel arms abandoned you for water to embrace you. Won't you lay your head in my water lily, love? And I swear to God I saw an angel's hands attend you, and that was just the dancing of the light. No mortal or immortal did deliver or defend you. All hands have forsaken you tonight. And I swear to God I saw an angel's hands attend you, and that was just the dancing of the light. No mortal or immortal did deliver or defend you. All hands have forsaken you tonight. All hands have forsaken you tonight.
Ah, lovely. Very, very good.
Brilliant.
There's another art in itself, backing a singer as well. Something different again as well.
Yeah, I think it's important, particularly in a concert scenario. I think to have a few songs in the programme really
Yeah.
sort of gives it
Very much.
variety. And Aaron's a great singer, and that song is one of Corinne Polwarth's. Beautiful song. And actually, I mentioned that it came from the Off the Hook album just about 10 seconds after it started. I'm thinking, that song's not on that album. We haven't recorded that one at all. So if you go to buy that album and looking for that track, it's not on it.
Listen, what's the best way for people to get your albums? Go to your website or digital downloads, or what's the deal?
Yeah, well, but been both, but I would. The website's always the easiest way.
Okay,
there's a
so
shop,
there we go.
and
AlistairMcCulloch.com. How many CDs? You've got about 4 or 5 on there now. I was looking this
Yes,
afternoon.
aye, there's that one with the trio. I've got 3 solo albums, and there's 1 or 2 Coil albums I think available
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. So some fantastic music on there, folks. Go on if you want to look at Alistair's stuff. I was looking at the site. It's a really nice site this afternoon, and I'm sure it'll still be a nice site tonight as well because it was good this afternoon. So, but go on, have a look, and if you fancy some of Alistair's music, that would be fantastic. And any immediate plans, or just wait and see what's happening?
Kind of waiting and see what's happening. There's a few things in the pipeline. I mentioned the 20th anniversary tour with the trio. That's something that we're looking forward to, whenever that will be. I was meant to be heading out to China in the autumn with 4 other Scottish bands to play at a variety of Scottish festivals out there, but that's been postponed. It was actually first put back to 2021. Now it's going to be 2022, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
And I think just getting back to like.
Well, if you
Even just
start
get to play a few
walking, if you
Keelys and
start
stuff.
walking now, you'll be there in time. Safe, keep the world green and all that. If you just walk for years up to China.
That'll be a challenge.
Listen, Alistair, it's been fantastic having you on. Thanks very much for coming on and giving us your time on a Sunday night.
Well, no problem. Thanks to you guys. Thanks so much, Ross and Peter, for having me on as a guest tonight. It's been a real pleasure, and you guys are doing a fantastic job right through lockdown. So congratulations for the success of the show, and you deserve every credit. It's been wonderful.
It's been
so
good
well
fun.
done.
It's kept us going too, Alistair. Kept us going as well.
Great. Well, listen, great.
Alistair,
great to
thanks
talk
very
to
much.
You
You take care, and all the best to you and the family. Take care of yourselves.
Thanks very much. Same to yourself.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, thanks very much.
Oh, what another wonderful night of music.
And I think another example of a show where we could have had both guests for the whole show.
I think so, yeah, no bother at all. Alistair, great fiddle player, lots of experiences. Yeah, really great. I really enjoyed it. And Stuart earlier on too, we've had contrasting guests tonight again. It's been really, really interesting. It's been really.
Great
But the
stuff. And
one thing that the one thing that runs through it all, of course, is as I say, contrasting, but musical guests and folk that just enjoy making people happy, basically.
yeah, it's music.
That's really it.
Music again, eh?
There's Tony. Hi, Tony. So, right. So I think we went on a bit tonight, but never mind. We could have went on forever. Could be worse. Could be worse. You could have to put up with just you and me for 2 hours, wouldn't you?
I think the folk would love it, Peter. I think the
Oh,
folk
do
would
you?
love it. Yeah.
Right. Anyway, folks, listen, thanks very much. You got anything you wanted to say quickly before we go?
No, thank you very much for everybody's fine
Brilliant.
comments. That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen out there, thanks very much for sending all your comments and thank you very much for joining us tonight. Karen, thank you very much backstage. And we'll see you on Wednesday night when we'll tell you who we've got for guests next week. And we've got another cracking couple of guests for you next week.
Yes.
So enjoy. And we'll see you then. Thanks very much, guys. It's
Thank you.
good night for me.
And a good night from him.
Ha
Yes, straight
On
away.
the ball.
On the ball, boy. On the ball.
Back
straight
of
away.
the net.